So Kelsey Mitchell obviously is a member of the Indiana Fever. And, she's going to be cored by the Fever. Worst case scenario, she's going to be cored by the Fever. She is going to be there, and I don't know if she'll be a player for the Fever next year, but she's going to be on the roster, or they're going to have her rights. Worst case scenario, she's cored and traded. But it does appear that Kelsey Mitchell is going to be a member of the Fever next year, which means the Indiana Fever seem like they're going all in. It seems like they're going all in for Kelsey Mitchell, which is a bold move, I will say. Like, it shrinks their it widens their short-term championship window while shrinking their long-term championship window. But let's take a listen to what Caitlin Clark said yesterday.
Kelsey Mitchell back. Was first team all WNBA last year. Kind of my running mate in the backcourt. She makes it really easy for me. So, there's nothing like playing for the Fever. I think we're good.
And yeah, first priority is to sign Kelsey Mitchell back from Caitlin Clark. And it's one of those things where I don't think people realize, everyone's like, oh, if Kelsey wants to leave, she's gone. But it's like, yeah, if Kelsey wants to leave, she is gone, but the Fever are going to get something back for her. If you're like, oh, she's number 6 free agent. No, the Fever are going to core her. She will be cored. Absolutely, 100% she will be cored. But it's clear that the Indiana Fever are planning on going for broke this year because, let's just say again, hypothetically, she's cored. What will you get in a core and trade for Kelsey Mitchell? You're probably going to get... And by the way, people are like, oh, but she can't sign a trade on a Supermax. As long as you don't sign your contract, core is just like restricted free agency rights. So you don't sign and trade the core free agency. From what I think in the letter of the law, she can still sign a Supermax with whatever team she gets cored to. They trade the core rights. You get the core rights. You don't get the max contract. I don't know whether or not she can get a Supermax, but the odds is that whoever's going to sign for her core rights are going to offer her a multi-year max contract. And if it's about money, the Fever will offer her the Supermax this year. It's as simple as that. And she will get the Supermax. Kelsey Mitchell will not leave money on the line. Kelsey Mitchell taking the Supermax instead of the regular max last year prevented the Indiana Fever from having 12 players on their team. Kelsey Mitchell will not leave money on the line. That is, I am telling you that for a fact. She will not leave money on the line. So it just depends with Kelsey Mitchell whether or not she wants the long-term stability of getting a max contract in, like, from a team that is going to be able to pay her for multiple years. Whether she's able to get a 3-4 year max contract, which she might be. Like, I don't know, she's either 30 or close to 30. And because I think she's born in 96, if I'm not mistaken. So she's either 30 or close to 30. So it's at the stage now where it's like she's a max contract player and she might get a 3-year max and get a max till she's 33, which with the way contracts will be rising, there's probably a percentage increase year on year. She'd be still making really, really good money in that scenario. Like, she would be making like 1.2, 1.3 mil a year. And you're like, okay, she might sign a 3-year, $4 million contract. Whereas a 1-year, $1.5 million contract, there's no guarantee after that $1.5 million contract that you're going to be able to get, what you want long term. Because if she has a down year, she's a 5'8" guard. Like, I'm sorry, unless you are Kelsey Plum, no team is going to take. I'm not going to say teams aren't going to take the risk, but it's like, we've seen what happened with Enrique. No one's going to sign Enrique to a long-term max. Short-term, maybe, an expansion team or something, but no one's signing Enrique to a long-term max. Up until a year ago, Enrique was seen as the superior player of the two. Like, it is literally just playing with Paige Beckers was such a negative on Enrique. That, and by the way, I'm not blaming Paige. I'm just saying stylistically, they do not mesh. Like, stylistically, Enrique is a ball-dominant combo guard. Paige Beckers is a ball-dominant combo guard. Especially that's the way she played last year. And it's like, then they also had like a non-spacer in DJ. There was so much wrong with the Dallas Wings team. Like none of the pieces fit. I remember talking about Dallas Wings. I was like, they could be really good or really shit. I'm like, I like these individual players. None of their pieces fit. But like Kelsey coming back, if the Fever want Kelsey Mitchell is back. It's as simple as that. She's not going to turn down the Supermax. I don't think she's going to turn down the Supermax. And even still, she can't say no to the Supermax. The Fever have her core rights. So obviously with the Fever having her core rights, if she says that she, wants to leave, okay, they're going to get a core and trade for her. If she wants to stay, they're going to use her core. They're going to use her core rights, give her a Supermax. And a Supermax this year is not the worst thing in the world for the Fever because they can afford it. What the Fever can't do is afford Kelsey Mitchell next year. And running it back with Kelsey Mitchell, maybe the Fever are like, look, because of the way the core rights work this year, is it worth, let's just say if the best offer for Kelsey Mitchell is the fourth pick from the Mystics. And you're like, it's not worth it for the fourth pick. Kelsey's just not worth it. We would rather have 1 year of Kelsey Mitchell and go for a title and let her walk in free agency. It makes sense. For me, it all just depends on what deal is on the table. Like in the previous core rules, you could have probably gotten yourself, like the Seattle Storm managed to get themselves the number 2 pick from the Sparks in a core and trade. Like, and that was in a draft where Malonga was 2. Like, if you could somehow go, let's just say you get Washington, and Washington will give you, again, in previous core rules, there's a chance Washington will give you the 2nd pick or the 4th pick, their 2027 pick, which is in a swap rights with the Chicago Sky, and maybe another young asset like the Emily Ensler reserve contract. Like, in the past, that's kind of what you would have gotten. But maybe you just get 4 for her. And if that ends up happening, you're then like, okay, we're better off keeping Kelsey Mitchell. Because you better believe, like, Kelsey Mitchell is like, people are like, oh, if Kelsey Mitchell wants to leave, she can just walk. No, she can't. No, she can't. Kelsey Mitchell's not going to leave. Like, if the Fever core Kelsey Mitchell, she either quits basketball or she either retires or goes into semi-retirement and sits out for a year and leaves $1.4 million on the table, or she plays for $1.4 million and then signs a long-term deal next year, wherever it is. She's not going to do that. If the Fever core her and want to keep her, and I'm telling you for a fact, Kelsey Mitchell will be playing for the Indiana Fever next year. It's as simple as that. If they core her and want to keep her, she'll be playing for the Fever. If it turns out that, they don't, or either they don't want to keep her or she doesn't want to stay and she wants to sign a long-term max, okay, cool. Then we're at a stage where it's like, okay, maybe, just maybe, she's gone. But I think the Indiana Fever are in a good spot anyway. No matter what happens, they're either going to, if they don't get a haul they like for Kelsey Mitchell, they're just going to go and trade her. It's a very, very simple one. If they get a haul they like, they're going to keep her. If they don't get a haul they like, they're going to trade her. And I think no matter what happens, they're going to get a somewhat decent deal. There's no way that the Indiana Fever are in a bad spot. And they're not in a bad spot at all. Again, worst case scenario, they get a haul. Best case scenario, they win a title. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Caitlin Clark saying they want to go for Kelsey Mitchell means that they are going for a title. Obviously, it's not going to be Caitlin Clark will say go for Kelsey Mitchell. Like, she's not going to say, oh, you know what, we should sacrifice next year because maybe in 3 or 4 years, we might be a team. We might be this elite team. However, if you are, for example, a front office, that is the decision that the front office need to make. Not Caitlin Clark, not realistically any of the younger players. Because yeah, everyone is going to look short term at this. But you also have to take into account people are going to be like, oh, but like they need to keep Caitlin Clark happy at all costs. They don't. What they need to do is they need to keep Caitlin Clark happy when her contract is up. Caitlin Clark is there for 6 years. There's nothing Caitlin Clark can do for 6 years. Caitlin is there for 6 seasons of her career. What the Indiana Fever need to do is in year 6, make sure Caitlin Clark is happy, or year 5, because of the Aaliyah and Caitlin situation with both of them. They need to make sure in year 5 she's happy, because she can't go anywhere until then. So yes, pissing off a year 3 Caitlin to try and make sure that Caitlin's happy in year 5 is a conversation they need to have, versus the potential of Caitlin in year 5 being pissed off when Kelsey Mitchell leaves and her and Aaliyah are on maxes and they have no draft picks and KK doesn't work out and they don't have players in good rookie deals and they're poor at scouting vets. All of these things. All of these things are things that could actually happen. And I don't know what way, like, I know what my decision would be, but again, it's way above my pay grade. And I also know Caitlin Clark's decision, just like Aaliyah Boston's decision, no matter what, is to bring back Kelsey Mitchell. Because, like, no player is looking at winning in 3, 4, 5 years down the line. They're looking at what's going to get me the most wins today. What's going to win me a title today? Like, as we saw with LeBron James. LeBron James traded away Andrew Wiggins, who, yes, Wiggins didn't pan out, but, like, Wiggins was expected to be, like, he was one of the most hyped high school recruits ever. He was an equivalent hype of a Darren Peterson, of a AJ Dybantsta. And he basically traded away an equivalent of AJ Dybantsta for Kevin Love. The reason why he did that is because he wanted to win a title in 2015 and couldn't care less about winning a title in 4 or 5 years down the line. So yeah, a player like Caitlin Clark is always going to look like that. I think the front office are having actual conversations about this, about who they're going to keep, who they're not going to keep. That being said, the likelihood is that they're going to core and keep Kelsey Mitchell. Which, look, if they win a title, it's not a bad decision. Look, even if they make the finals or lose in the semis again, it's not a bad decision doing that. However, it will be it could very well be a bad decision if long term, they don't have the pieces to compete with the Mystics in 3 to 4 years. Because let's be real, the Mystics are probably going to be bad for one more year. Could you imagine if they land Juju and all of a sudden they have Juju, Citron, Kiki, all on rookie deals. And then they have the ability to sign a max point guard to run the show. A superstar point guard to run the show and a superstar center. And not only that, they'll have the 4th pick in this year's draft, which could be Awa. Could you imagine if they have Awa and she pans out and suddenly they have Awa at the 5, Kiki at the 4, assuming that Kiki by that stage will have developed a 3-point shot. Awa already is a 3-point shot. Then you've got Juju, Citron, and a superstar point guard with depth on the bench because you can afford that. No, the Fever aren't going to beat that team, no matter how good Caitlin and Leah are, just because of the way the contracts work out and the way rookie salaries work out. So yeah, that is a really interesting one. It's a really interesting one to think about, and I think it's one of those reasons why GMs, presidents, scouts get paid the big bucks. It's one of the reasons why. And we also have to take into account the Valkyries are coming. The Valkyries are coming. So maybe they're saying, you know what, in 4 to 5 years, we don't trust our front office enough to beat out the Valkyries, which might be the truth. But anyway, yeah, I'll see you guys.